Hey, welcome to 12 Tone, check this out. And compare it to this. To my ear, at least, that second one sounds a lot smoother. But why? They're both the same chords, they have all the same notes, so what's the difference? Well, it comes down to something called voice leading. Voice leading means looking at how notes move in between chords, breaking the progression down into a bunch of single note lines called voices, like how this, and this combine to form this. The most basic kind of voice leading is called parallel harmony, where every voice moves in the same direction and roughly the same distance so that the voices maintain their basic structure and relationships. This is often called planing because all the voices are sliding around together, and it can sound really cool if the chords are all next to each other. But when your chords are jumping all over the place, parallel harmony can sound chaotic and disorganized. In order to get a nice smooth sound, we want our voices to move as little as possible. If a note is in both chords, the same voice should probably just play it both times so we don't have to jump around as much, and if notes do have to move, they should go to the closest chord tones available. Let's try an example. Both chords have an A in them, so we can just let this bottom voice stay where it is. This C sharp barely has to move to get to D, and this E could go either way, but D major needs an F sharp and we don't have one yet, so let's put it there. This gives us this instead of this. And honestly, most of the time that's good enough. We don't really have to do more, but we can. There's some extra techniques we can try to make the sound even smoother. For instance, we can try and avoid parallel motion as much as possible. Voices moving in parallel draw extra attention to themselves, and when those voices are really strong intervals apart, like an octave or a perfect fifth, that attention can distract from the harmonic movement, so if you want to really smooth things out, it's best to stay away from them. Compare this to this. But avoiding them comes at a cost. Sometimes your voices are gonna have to jump a little. It's not ideal, but the occasional hop isn't actually all that bad. It only really becomes a problem if they happen multiple times in a row, especially in the same direction. If that happens, the line starts to outline a chord, which again draws attention to the voice and away from the harmony. There's also the matter of spacing. If you get huge gaps between your voices, the movement starts to feel empty, whereas if they get too close, it can sound cramped. The correct spacing depends on a bunch of questions, including your instrumentation and your artistic goals, but a good rule of thumb is that the voices should mostly be between a third and a sixth apart. And then there's rules for specific notes. In major, for instance, the 7th degree really wants to resolve upwards. Moving it down instead is going to sound a bit jarring. Likewise, the 4th degree likes to drop down to the 3rd, so if you have an opportunity to do that, it's probably worthwhile. But all that is still just guidelines, ways to avoid making something bad. When you get deep enough into it, voice leading itself can become art. At this point, you're not just making lines, you're making melodies, lots of different melodies that can work together to create harmony, but they can each also stand on their own. You can have huge leaps if it serves your purposes, jumping around however you see fit. You can even build interactions between the voices with tricks like contrary motion, where one line goes up while the other goes down, confusing the listener as to which direction the sound is moving. It takes some practice, and there's no clear rules about what you can and can't do, but it opens up whole new ways to think about harmony. It's not just vertical stacks of notes anymore. With voice leading, it's gone horizontal. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to help make these videos possible, please consider supporting 12 Tone on Patreon. You can also join our mailing list for scans of all our episodes. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and keep on rockin'.